Hello and welcome to Inside Salem. I'm your host, Mike Allen. On this show, our goal is to update the citizenry of Salem of the inside happenings of what's going on at City Hall and around town. Our panel consists of Teasie Riley-Goggin, political analyst, Tom Furey, former school committee member, former councilor at large and current planning board member.
Thank you.
And Attorney Jim Fleming, a former Ward 6 city councilor and former school committee member. Welcome all. Today's topics will include the budget that was just passed. Massachusetts gets money for electric school buses. Vineyard Offshore gives a gift to Salem, and license fees for tour guides as well as other subjects as well. Before we get into that, we get condolences to Tom, whose brother passed away a couple of days ago.
Nothing means family. And I lost a brother who was 4 years older than I, and he was my role model. Yeah. He went to public schools, then he went off to Etsagaggi and did a 3-year program at Etsagaggi after high school. And he was the first one in my family of 7 to go to college. So he was my role model. And most people didn't know him, but he was very quiet behind the scenes. He held signs all over the place, for 45 years. He held signs everywhere, city council meetings and so on there. So he passed away at the age of 79, his wife Joyce and 4 children. And he was a very good brother, a good role model. So thank you, Mike.
Okay.
I've heard because my sister-in-law that lives in the neighborhood and has talked about what a good neighbor he was, right?
Thank you.
Was he Moffett Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moffett Road. You served him.
I did. I represented him a long time ago.
Thank you. He knew better. He knew who to go to.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm very sorry. But what I was also going to say is, we notice that a spot here is empty because Domingo Dominguez is on a business trip to the Dominican Republic, right? Yeah. And we'll have to make sure that he sees this, so it's a good thing we mention his name.
Well, it shows up on the screen at the start. Regular watchers would know that we have people miss here and there.
All right.
Okay, first topic, let's talk about the Salem budget, $202 million, a 4% increase over last year. $80 million for the school budget, which was a 4.8% increase over last year. I guess the biggest thing that kicked that up was that due to the pandemic money running out, that we took the pre-K program, pre-kindergarten program that we put in during the pandemic and brought it in-house, and so we have to pay for it.
It's still
Jim,
a winner.
You were on the school committee when that was.
It's still a winner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing we have to do, pre-K.
Yeah.
I've been preaching that for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's how you get them started early, and they learn better.
Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Brendan Walsh, who was a member of this panel, would love to have that continue permanently there, to have preschool.
Oh, I think it's gonna be. I think
it's the foundation to a good education.
This tells you that they plan to keep it in place.
Goodness.
But the other thing too is because you also, through the school committee and people, you brought it right into the home with many of these young mothers, to give extra help with their children before they went to pre-kindergarten.
Right.
Now, the Massachusetts, and I mentioned it last taping, we got $430, not million, $1 billion in Massachusetts alone. That's just one state.
How much?
$430 billion.
For what?
For pandemic money from the government. $430 billion.
430 billion?
Right.
Because if you multiply that up by 50 states,
that's
right. Like $10 trillion or something like that. And
it's up there, yep.
Or 20 trillion. We didn't get that much. They put a ridiculous amount, but I don't think.
Could someone tell me now when our former mayor came into being? Does anyone know what the budget was when she first took office?
I did analysis 4.5 years ago during
20 billion.
mayoral
20
election,
million.
and we
25
were
million.
we went up higher than all our neighbors. Our school budget went up higher than all our neighbors, and our overall city budget. I haven't done the numbers recently, but I can tell you it has not it has not slowed down.
25. I would guess
our neighbors.
I would guess at that time the entire school city budget was in the order of 20 to 25 million dollars.
Now, at that, I was first on the school committee, which was before Mayor Driscoll was elected. The school budget that first year and it was the first year you were on the school committee as well. The school budget that year was $38 million. The first budget that we dealt with.
Really?
Yeah, 38 million. I remember that because I was fighting that the increase was too high, and we had a drop in enrollment, and we were having an increase in budget above 2.5%, and we were above the foundation number. And I was arguing that. And in fact, you and I
It was not necessary.
Richard McCarthy.
Yeah, Richard McCarthy.
We went through that budget.
Right.
Make a motion to reduce this. We discussed it,
The
and then we were
whole
outvoted.
budget, went through the whole budget.
Yeah, and we were outvoted. Some of the things that you brought up, some Richard brought up, some I brought up, and I think they took out about $12 out of the budget.
Yeah.
Something.
Who was
foolish like
who was the mayor then?
At that point, it was Mayor Yusevich.
Okay.
But so Mayor Driscoll didn't go in until the start of 2006, elected in 2005, for the start of 2006. And I did an analysis about 4 years ago, and at that point in time, the Salem budget overall, and I'm working on memory here, so the numbers, are a little fuzzy, but we grew at a 20% faster pace of spending per resident than our neighbors did. Per capita, budget per capita, spending per capita went up like 20% higher than Beverly, Peabody, and Lynn. And I took those things because they're our neighbors and they're cities as well.
Well, see, I thought, Mike, that it was about 100,000 when the mayor came in, and now it's doubled.
No, it was under 100 million overall, the budget.
I mean, 100 million. Yeah.
It was the overall budget. 38. It was about 80. When Mayor Driscoll came in, I don't know exactly for sure. I think the school budget was around 42 million at that time. Overall budget was about $90 million at that time. So yes, under Mayor Driscoll, but she was in 18 years. The budget went from, basically doubled in the 18 years.
It doubled. And someone said to me, "You're crazy." When she went in, it was 150 million, and I said, "No, no way, no."
Okay.
Do you have any information relative to we got money for electric buses?
Yes.
But we did away with all the drivers. That was one of the votes that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And some very good school committee members went the other way in this.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it.
Yeah, again, when I first came on the school committee, being a businessman, I looked at it and said, where can efficiencies be raised? And that was one of the question marks I made. I spoke to a couple people who were in the busing industry, and they said, oh yeah, you can save some money here and there. And then when I looked into it, I said, okay, fine, we can save a few dollars. But we had continuity of school bus drivers who were of the community, and who knew the students that were coming on, knew the students' parents, things like that, which I don't know if it's the case or not now, but it was clearly there was a plus that you couldn't measure in strict dollars and cents, and so therefore I never really pursued it because the cost benefit didn't work. Even though there was a little less in terms of ultimate cost, the cost benefit didn't work.
Well, they're also talking about not only electric buses, but they're also, I think there's 7 or 11 or something like that, states that already have it in place.
Yeah.
But for seat belts. And
Yeah.
I believe the fellow, I think his name is like Bluebird or something like that, said that if
Bluebird's a type of bus.
there you go.
Yeah.
He said in his buses it would cost about $8,050, and he definitely will pay that to get these the belts in for the
Long time coming.
Because a long time.
Okay.
But Massachusetts isn't on the list yet, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But he said after some of the tests that he has witnessed and saw the kids go flying, and some of the deaths that have been caused, people have no idea the dangers, And the buses, I believe, Jim, we've talked, have been one of the safest vehicles that we have on the road. They're well built. But that doesn't help when they get slammed into.
If you don't have any seatbelts.
That's right.
Yeah, actually, again, during our tenure, and my tenure was very short, 4 years, but during our tenure...
Short but excellent.
During our tenure, one of the things that we put in place was a replacement program for replacement buses, because we had some buses that they had to put them together with
stuck with Band-Aids.
coat hangers to make them pass inspection. So,
and
there
so
was
we
some
set money
issues.
aside for every year for improvement of the fleet.
Yeah. So, because that
was very
made
good.
sense. Yeah. So as Jim was saying, there's money that was Massachusetts got getting $42 million to put in e-buses, electric buses for schools. And I was thinking 42 million, I'm not sure how many buses that buys.
Not many.
Not a whole lot.
No.
Compared to 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. I'm not sure how many buses Salem has, but I got to figure 20.
Yeah, 20 easy, yeah.
Yeah, so that 400 million is not going to do a whole lot for climate change.
Not going to go very far.
Yeah, but, okay. Let's talk a little bit about Salem itself. Now, Salem
doesn't exist.
Was in effect the de facto capital of the colonial United States at one time. We were the #1 spot for commerce, which was shipping. The first 3 millionaires in the continental United States were from Salem, two derbies and a Crowenshield. And at one point in time, briefly, just before the Revolutionary War, 250 years ago it was, actually, because we just celebrated it, for a period of about a year, the British government made Salem the state capital of Massachusetts. And because they were too unruly in Boston, and they didn't want to be in there. That was so we celebrated that recently.
The problem with Salem was that the port was not deep enough.
Right. Yeah. As boats as the ships got bigger over the years, we lost our advantage because we had a nice, was deep enough water port for the ships of the day. But as ships progressed, the technology progressed. It didn't. We lost that advantage. Tom, you were saying that you were at a Salem High School meeting having to do with the MBTA station, South Salem MBTA station.
Thank you. TC and I were on there at the meeting, a big meeting. 200 people attended on a very hot night at Salem High School in the auditorium about the topic of a train station stop near the McDonald's for Salem State College, for Amazon.com, Salem Hospital, for the employees and different appointments. So we were there, packed house. The MBTA came in with their figures about that, and it's down the line. The funding is there, not there. The funding is not there right now as we speak.
Oh, they didn't tell us that though. We knew that. They didn't tell us.
We knew too.
And what would be the funding?
Be a combination federal and state.
Yeah, I know, but
MBTA.
What would be the total?
They didn't give that figure last night.
No
And it has grown since at the time Nancy Harrington had it there when she was president of Salem State University, and the Neighborhood Association, Ward 5 and 7 were for that. Made a presentation back 20 years ago when I was on the city council, and I was there at the police station, packed house at the auditorium.
Right, yeah.
At the police station 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I was the only one in favor of it.
Well,
the minority. The neighborhood came out against it like did last night.
See,
but that's last night, because I was there, and there's the idea of no funding yet. But the other thing is, everyone in the neighborhood was not notified that they were going to have this meeting. All the planning was going on, and only a few people had been notified. The neighbors that got a hold of it, they made copies of the invitation and a flyer, and they went out, and the day before, they leafleted the whole neighborhood. And people found out what was happening to their quiet neighborhood over there on Ocean West. Ocean West people is, some people, if you're old enough, that used to be a drive-through bridge that was big enough for one car going one way, and if someone was coming the other way, you had to wait for this car to go through. And every couple of months or so, they had to put the boards back on that they would knock off on the side of the thing. But right now, they're talking about putting a walk-on bridge.
Now,
But it's going to be up so high, it's going to be elevated up. Where are they going to put it? They think they have it figured out down behind on Broadway. But they have a lot of ideas.
that's not a bridge, though. That's a pedestrian.
This is a place just to get.
pedestrian
Right.
bridge.
But I will tell you, the meeting was, I'm sorry, I thought poorly conducted because they had big fans going, and the fans, with the noise that it was making, and only one mic up front in the auditorium, and that auditorium, as we know, it has a funny sound to it. As Pat says here, the only thing that comes out right when they tape is the music. It seems to amplify, and it was great. But last night, I missed a lot of the meeting. I think it got more than I did because I didn't hear the whole thing.
I agree.
But the neighbors, when they finally got a chance to speak and put in their 2 cents, I will tell you, I didn't hear even one of them that was in favor of this station going with what they're planning. The meeting should have gone from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. A little after 7 o'clock, the fellow who was conducting the meeting said, "Thank you very much for coming. We'll let you know when the next meeting is." Just like that, it was over. In other words, they cut it in half.
Okay, and we've talked about this on the show multiple times, mostly me sputtering, and discussed the cost of it. And again, I'm assuming we haven't come down in cost of it, and they're talking about, it was over $25 million, and we're not talking about building a building, we're not talking about putting in a garage, we're not talking about anything other than putting up a stop sign for the train to stop there and some sort of platform for people to get on and off.
And who
I
is
look and say,
serving?
how can it cost $25 million? If they said $250,000, I would think that would be too high.
Be fine.
Yeah.
There's more than a platform now. In this new illustration, I think we saw at TC at the meeting, there's 3 or 4 elevators involved, there's lighting involved. It's a really a glassed-in structure situation.
Okay.
To be a train stop. So it's just not, there is a building there.
There's going to be a building there
There is a
now.
building.
What is the
But
constituency?
the building is going to be down in the train yard, I thought, where they're going to do services and things like that. But I don't know if it's going to be covered or not because I couldn't figure out from what they were talking about. But the platform, are they going to have a platform on one side and the other side?
Yes, they will
both?
have to. They will have to.
That's what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, but the whole thing, no, the people, they do not, they ask them, who is it going to service, like you said, Mike? In other words, the college kids. John Keenan was there.
Yeah.
And, but what college kids? His enrollment is down so far. The people after the pandemic decided, hey.
And you're only a half mile from the
That's right,
from the
that's right.
Main station.
Yeah, that's
Why
right.
are we doing that?
There's no reason for it.
And when
There was
they
a big reason for it. There was a big reason. There's 25,000 employees alone, employees. Hold on, please. Employees between Salem State University, Amazon.com. My son worked there. Salem Hospital, the Epstein Center situation. That's going 24/7. Thousands of employees. Think of me as a senior citizen going for appointments for urology and prostate cancer and all these things that you go to Salem Hospital for. These people are coming from Lynn, the speaker series from Salem State University, students coming from North Shore Community College, from Lynn, from Gloucester. Salem State used to have a campus up there in Gloucester. Instead of going all up to Gloucester, they'll be coming to Salem by train. If you look at the train station now in Salem, it's 3 lights going from SoFi Stadium, the old Parker Brothers. 3 individual lights from SoFi to the square, to the courthouse area, to going on to Bridge Street. This will offset some of the people coming in there will get off there at the train station.
They won't.
I think they won't.
They
won't.
haven't even done
They
a
won't.
survey and come up with a number.
right. I
Now,
would like to see that
we
survey.
asked, how many, Get your act
There's
together.
no survey.
Yeah, but down there, when they talked about the train station being built in Salem before the one that has been built, and they said the building out front, which is Sophie now, and that that was built after the monopoly money was taken away from us, and now it's in every treasury, I think. That's what people are spending here in Salem. There was hardly anybody from that building down there on Washington Street and heading to North Salem that were taking the train. We were told that people are not going to be using their cars that much back about 10, 15 years ago. If you go down and you ask the excise tax, they have increased. We don't have any room for the cars that we have in Salem. But no, they were there and they gave a presentation last night. And I agree with you, Jim. There's no need for it right now for the amount of money they want to spend.
Well, this is my argument is you can almost, you get 20 years worth of Uber. To transfer people, they just take an Uber and bill it to the MBTA. It would be cheaper than spending
more importantly, have the hospital fund one bus and have this college fund another bus and cover that half-mile distance from the downtown station.
More than a half mile, isn't it?
Oh, 6/10 of a mile, okay?
Okay.
I'm not going to argue
I
about
would
it.
have thought it was a mile,
Yeah,
but...
not going to argue about it.
No, it's not. No, but yeah.
It's ridiculously too close, and it's going to be too close for passengers on the rail coming from Newburyport and others who have to make another stop along the way.
And adds another 10 minutes to their
There's
trip.
nothing so powerful as an idea whose time has come. 20 years ago, we weren't ready. The stars weren't aligned.
Yeah.
Now, I think the stars are getting in a aligned situation. You look on the MBTA corridor now, the train station. Salem was the third city in the Commonwealth to go to firm housing along the MBTA route. I'm on the planning board now. You can see St. James being developed now. Right now, St. James. The bricks building that we have talked about in the past, people that live there. Canal Street, 254 units.
Let's talk about bricks for a moment.
Sure.
Does that qualify? Because
Oh, that doesn't qualify. St. James doesn't qualify.
is St. James close enough?
I'm sharing that. Housing is going into it. St. James, right?
Okay.
Bricks building, the old Bertini's restaurant, 254 units.
That's different.
75 units in
That's
95 Washington Street.
That's different.
They're going to cross the street to the train station.
Yeah.
More and more people employed taking the train in. So I think it's going to be used a lot.
Okay.
Okay,
Campus
let's talk about the fact of what we talked about, just amongst ourselves about the fact about Mayor Kim Driscoll is the one that said to Governor Healy that, that she put her in charge of housing and so on and so forth. And Kim Driscoll, it was part of her platform that, housing, that her housing was like her specialty. And she would bring in more housing. And here in Salem, you look at the building that's going on, and if they put this train station platform down there, we will qualify. Now remember, we have no money to fund, but we will qualify for federal funds if we have this, because they will start building high-rise apartments like they did in Beverly. Rantoul Street is a prime example. The only difference is that Rantoul Street stayed close to where the train station is.
So are you proud of Rantoul Street? Do you want Rantoul Street now in Salem? Because I don't. It's nothing.
No, I don't.
Nothing but a canyon.
Right.
Nothing. No architectural work whatsoever.
You mean you don't like boxes?
Huh?
You don't like boxes,
No, I don't.
No, I agree. In other words,
not in a city that has McIntyre and others that are worldwide known.
And God bless the Wood Street neighborhood. And they stood up solidly against Rantoul Street coming to Wood Street from the Beverly Bridge all the way down. They stood up and said, no way do we want a concrete jungle like
that's
Rantoul
right.
Street.
Well, I'm saying,
So they're fighting fiercely.
get ready.
No, I don't think that will be done.
Yep.
No,
And
we
then
will not be
people,
done that
if these people over in Castle
gonna-
Hill,
what's gonna
as I
stop
said to them, stick together, people, and protect your neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things I was talking about here, and I'll jump into it, is that Attorney General Andrea Campbell came in and recently and gave a thumbs up for all Salem is doing to comply with the new MBTA housing regulation. regulation of housing near MBTA stations. However, there's like 30 some odd cities and towns that are fighting it in court, that say that the state overstepped their bounds by requiring this. We were in compliance before it went into effect, because we've been so build crazy. Although we haven't built low-income housing, we built mostly market rate plus high-income housing.
That's
well, you
right,
were
Mike.
on the school committee, and Jim was on the school committee, I was on the city council, Domingo was on the city council. We didn't build housing. We really didn't. Picture a house, 200,000, 300,000, if we wanted to build a house in Salem. Where would it come from? We depended on the state over the years.
When I say housing, I'm talking about like the 120 units on Mason Street. You have the Bricks building that was built. A couple other projects that I can't think of off the top of my head that have been built. We've built on Boston Street at the corner of Bridge Street, not the site that's empty, which we approved for 117 condos 200 or 300 years ago. But we still on Boston Street, from the corner of Bridge Street heading upward towards Peabody. We have that complex there. That's got to be about.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And the argument always is that it's it's better than having it sit empty. But from a financial standpoint, for the existing taxpayers of Salem, it's not a financial benefit. It's a financial benefit not to build these projects.
Well, the one they're going to be building down on the Crescent lot, we've talked about that how many times here.
Yeah.
And if Domingo was here, he'd be talking about that they voted to make that a parking lot area for the buildings on Federal Street. And now it's going to...
SRA just said no.
Yep, right.
And sold it to the developer.
Right. Again, I mean...
It's a floodplain. Floodplain.
Right.
This is the thing. I mean, it's the proverbial what the camel's nose under the tent. You get approval to do something, you come back and say, wait a second, we can't do it that way. We need to have another story. We need to have
That's what happened in the
TIF.
That's what happened in the Bricks building.
Right, exactly.
Bricks building was supposed to be parking underneath.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
No parking, no needed, none needed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, how about also the state auditor who is out there pushing the idea that she wants that put it on the ballot about the fact that she wants to audit or has set an audit up for the legislature because the legislature.
I don't oppose that. What's wrong with that? I think
I'm just saying
they're scared of that.
I think that's
it's 64%. They've done a survey. 64% of people want it on the ballot. I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
You know who
pass,
doesn't want it? The 180 people in the legislature.
Yep.
Very true.
Yep.
That's 140 plus 40.
Yeah. But I'd like to go back, Mike, and just talk about what you were talking about, the history and about down at Derby Wharf and being the Derbys and being millionaires and everything. Right now, I'm not sure if you have it on your list or not, but Derby Street, at one point, where they were coming in through Derby Wharf down there, and all the sailors and everything, the whole street, what used to be lined with bars and rooms up top and everything, because it was almost like a Salem's Paradise after they'd been out on the ship for so long. So it wasn't until the people started coming in, and they kind of selected that area to settle in, and that was many of our Polish generation that settled down there. And bit by bit, the bars started to, disappear.
Yeah.
So now it's fairly quiet. With there's one Mercy Tavern down there that I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it
but
used to
anyhow,
be,
right now
there
is
Pig's Eye or something for
Pig's
years.
Eye.
there is one place down there a restaurant that wants to add a liquor license to their sit down. It's a brand new business that's opening up, and the owner of it just happens to be on the city council.
Yeah.
And they're going to bring up for zoning. Now that down there right now is referred to as a B1. It's a friendly neighborhood.
Yeah.
In other words, we don't want all those bars back. We don't want all that noise.
Isn't B1 business?
B1 business, right?
Okay.
B1 is
Yeah,
business.
yeah, a friendly one.
Yeah.
Either VFW is right across from this restaurant that wants to go in and change the zoning, but they want to change it in a way that's kind of smooth, cunning, tricky, call it what you want. They don't want to go to a B2.
That's the trouble with some.
They want to go to put an A with it. Just put an A, right, and say it's going to be like a B, a friendly 40B.
Yeah.
That changed the whole thing. That's what they started using. Well, this one here, I said to Tom, who was on the planning board, Tom, take a good look at this if this comes before you.
Thank you.
Don't fool around with the zoning in the city of Salem. It's in place for a reason.
Yeah, but doesn't mean that things don't change over the years.
That's right.
And again, there's in effect, a bar across the street from it in terms of the VFW post. I mean, that's basically a bar.
It's not a bar. It's a club.
Okay,
That's
it's
right.
a club.
You have to be a member
Big difference,
to use
big
that
difference.
bar.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
true. But in other words, they do serve alcohol there.
Yeah,
And
they do.
And a few blocks
was
up,
grandfathered.
Mercy Tavern, which
Yeah.
used to be in a Pig's Eye for many years, does serve alcohol as well. I'm not saying that we should do this, and I agree that it's spot zoning. It is problematic.
Yes, it is.
That there was a prior owner in there who, probably if he could get a liquor license, he would have asked for a liquor license, but he couldn't. And if they give it to a city councilor, I just think that raises questions, ethical questions.
Big questions.
Yeah.
Big question.
Yeah.
The big thing is, of course, it will go through the family, but he can't be voting on it because of affiliation. But it's
But he can champion it.
yeah, right.
Right, yeah. So he'll stand before his colleagues and say, hey, help me out.
Yeah.
And of course, the unspoken thing will be, and if you want something in your ward, I'll support it. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, that's why you see, people go into Congress and the Senate, and they're, just middle class income type of thing, and when they retire, they're multimillionaires. And they've, and it's not that their salary is that high. It's a good salary, but it's not like that would make someone a multimillionaire. But
Yeah,
they,
it's funny,
they
they
have
go
all
in
these
almost
other things
poor,
that
right, and come
somehow
out
they
rich.
just get rich.
This former facility on Derby Street we were talking about was a former pasta place, spaghetti place, family oriented, family business.
It was a
Now it's
barber
being-
shop.
Exactly. It
It
was,
was a
true.
barber shop.
now-
Ralph's barber shop.
Yeah.
That spaghetti place, two
Well,
pasta places.
That's afterwards.
coming up from
Ralph Rossetti.
up one block, and you hit by the corner of Hawthorne Boulevard, and heading down on the right-hand side there's a little Italian restaurant. Is it Della Rosa or something like that?
Right across the street, the Hotel
that
Hawthorne.
is, they gave outside dining, and they blocked off right there by the Hawthorne Hotel and Union Street for this restaurant. And it is. Last year, I believe they told them that they were not going to renew their permit to have outside dining. They brought it into the council the other night, and they, Cindy Nowak, what's her married name?
Chiswick.
Chiswick.
She is the councilor in Ward 1.
Yes.
Right.
She gave a very, very nice, short and to the point about the fact that her constituents, the people in the neighborhoods, are very upset over the people cutting down Union Street and speeding. They're even asking for speeding bumps. And Orange Street was another one. She gave it and she said, and this is all for a restaurant that has opened late in the afternoon and goes into the evening, but nevertheless, that's blocked off for the whole time, about approximately, is it 3 months, dining or out?
Oh, no, it's longer than that. It goes from
April to October.
almost
Well,
6
that's a
months.
long time to block off a busy, it's by the Hawthorne Hotel there, and lights and
Yeah,
everything.
April to October.
Yeah. So right now, so they took a vote. They took a vote, and I was surprised by the vote. I really was, because usually councilors, back up each other. I thought it would probably be unanimous. They would decline it, but I think the vote was 7-3.
Okay,
And
it
not.
was
They
it
did
approved or
decline it.
declined?
They said that no, they would not approve it.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a matter of
It's sort of unfortunate. I mean, I feel bad for the business, having been in business. In
But
Salem
it's
for
not
many years.
finished
I
yet.
feel bad for the business because, after all, it's the only place in Salem they're not allowing that to do it. But
Exactly.
clearly, it's impractical to do that. I mean, you can't block off a major street.
It's a little like the North End in Boston.
Yeah.
It's the only neighborhood you can't do it in Boston.
Right. Yeah.
The whole neighborhood.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
Mayor Wu said no, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
For this restaurant, it was a matter of survival to continue to compete with other
Well,
restaurants nearby.
during the pandemic, that's a different story. We can't use the pandemic dynamics. I mean, I don't think any of these places that are in the street should be there. I mean, I just don't see that. Takes away a ton of parking spaces. It makes it much slower to go around. I don't believe any of these places should have it.
I thought
but
it was gonna be
it's not as
temporary.
bad as what is down on Essex Street there by the Hawthorne Hotel.
That's right.
And I feel bad for a small local business.
I do too.
But again, it just, but nowadays you can eat inside. Unfortunately, people will say, "Oh, gee, you don't have outside seating. I'll go to a different restaurant," and that's unfortunate. I don't know. I don't know.
This
how to-
restaurant, it's got maybe 20 personality of 20 people eating at the restaurant. It's a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant above apartments and condominiums.
Yeah.
So this restaurant
Very
really
good restaurant.
needs to survive. I got cross street from the Hotel Hawthorne. Right across the street too is the a restaurant that has on the corner of the Hotel Hawthorne has it like them too. It blocks Essex Street. So they're doing the same thing too.
But I
Right
believe,
across the street, the statue of Nathaniel Hawthorne, right across the street from the Hotel Hawthorne, is that restaurant that has outdoor dining now.
Right, yeah.
It's blocking Essex Street, going into down to PBS
I don't understand.
Museum.
I thought that was all
Township.
going to be temporary anyways.
Right, that was supposed to be a temporary thing for the
Why-
pandemic.
why-
They wouldn't be inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why they're continuing
Right.
that. Again, I no longer have a business in Salem, so it doesn't affect me personally or business-wise. But I think I just think it's not a good thing to continue this on. If people have spot in front of their like Rockefeller's. Rockefeller had a natural big open
Big
area,
sidewalk.
and they put tables out there. They've had tables
Fine.
out there for years and years,
Fine.
pre-pandemic.
Right.
But next to it, Ledger, they've taken like 5 parking spaces and built a platform out there, which stays there all year round. You know, the wooden platform,
That's
and they've
right.
taken away those parking spaces, and then they put out tables as well. And I just don't agree that they should. When they moved in, when Ledger moved in, they did not have outside eating, and it should go back to the pre-pandemic thing. Bella Verona did not have outdoor seating prior to the pandemic. We gave them a break, and I mean we meaning the city of Salem, the state, where they're changing the liquor laws, that you could go out on the sidewalk, etc. But so we gave them a break, all the restaurant businesses, and said, okay, fine, we're going to allow you to do this because the pandemic is just really killing in-house restaurants because of limits on how many people could be in there and all that.
Our sister cities, Peabody and Danvers and Beverly, are copying outdoor restaurants too. And it's very challenging to have outdoor restaurants.
Right.
It's the economic lifeline for these restaurants is to have that outdoor dining.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Well,
you know,
it'd be nice if I had like a valet place to pull up in front of my business. That would have been nice. That would have helped my business out. I
that's
didn't
right.
get that.
Really?
It's again, a restaurant that had no outside seating prior to the pandemic. It just can't come to me and say I need this to stay in business. You were in business beforehand. Were you going to go out of business, and is the pandemic's going to save you? I don't know the answer to that.
well, the whole thing is when they built the platform outside the Ledges, were they paying taxes on it?
That I don't know. I don't know what the revenue loss. I mean, you figure that that
look
was
at all the- look at all the-
$1.50 an hour.
Yep.
And it's
Times
a
five.
14-hour day. No, it's a 10-hour day. So that's $15 a spot. I think there's 5 spots they take.
I think it's 5.
So that's $75 a day. That the city of Salem, because that place was probably always had parking spots when it was available. And that's not even counting the weekend. So 75, 100, almost $100 a day. $75 a day times the thing, it's over $2,000 a month. Are they giving the city? That's how much revenue the city is losing from it.
But that's all over. That's all over the city. Stop and think down there by Hampton Inn. They took 17 spaces.
To do
Hampton Inn, when they built it out there.
Right, but they gave them back, and that was part of a different deal.
All right. You tell me, where did they put them?
They theoretically they have public parking inside their garage.
Theoretically,
but that's immaterial. That's a whole different thing, TC, because that was an agreement that was made from the city. They suspended a street and they did all that. That is a different thing. That's a permanent thing, and again, it had nothing to do with the pandemic. So it's a different.
Oh
mechanism.
no, I'm just saying. I just want to count spaces because you were on the finances
Right.
throughout the city. All through,
Right.
that it would be a lot of money.
And that hotel, in terms of the amount of taxes they pay, it more than pays for 17 spaces. When they start talking room taxes that go directly to the city of Salem, plus real estate taxes that go to the city of Salem, they more than make up the loss of 17 parking spaces.
But I just want them included.
And they even gave the 17 parking
I hear
spaces, and I don't know the details of it, but my understanding was that they made arrangements that they would have those 17 spaces in their garage that were available or whatever. And I don't know any of the details. I don't know what they followed.
No, you're
through on.
absolutely right.
But that was that's not a temporary thing where they're setting up a platform in front of Kodo. They're setting up a platform in front of Ledger. That's a whole different mechanism than that's a different argument.
Oh, I'm not arguing with that point. I just was counting number of the ones that, in other words, meters are put in and then meters disappear for one reason or another.
Yeah.
The pandemic, yes, a lot happened with the pandemic.
Right.
But the pandemic is over now.
Yeah.
And the money is spent, and
Yeah.
they're running out of money.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, but I think that many of these restaurants, Halloween comes in, and many people have said to me that own businesses downtown,
Yeah.
that the time that they have Halloween carries them for a whole year.
Right, that's true. For a lot of those businesses, that's the case.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's go on to something else here. A Vineyard Offshore pledges $1 million a year for Salem. See, my problem here with this is this. We gave them a TIF, which is probably $1 million a year.
Right.
So that would go into the general fund.
Right.
Now here, the city can say, do this off-budget thing, do this off-budget thing.
Right.
I just think it's sort of is a way of subverting the regulation of Proposition 2.5. Other thing that we have is that we had a big increase in the water and sewer rates. At one point in time, I spoke to one of the city councilors years ago, and it was problematic because the water and sewer rates have to more or less match up to what it cost. And what they were doing was, if there was a truck that did half of its work for the city of Salem, and then did work as well, half of its work for the, water and sewer related, like replacing pipes or whatever, they would build all of it to the water and sewer so they could justify raising the rates. It was a way of getting around Proposition 2.5. These type of things to me are problematic. And it's good that they're doing it. We're on the front end of the Ponzi scheme here as far as this offshore wind things go, and by that I mean that we're going to find out pretty quickly that these offshore wind farms are not going to do the trick. And they're not going to be in there that long. But we happen to be in the early part of it. So just like the old Ponzi schemes, we're going to collect ours in Salem. So from that part, I have no complaints with it.
Yeah, but the other thing too is, get ready for the noise that goes with this wind farms that they're going to be having here in the city, because the big heavy-duty equipment that they have to use to move these things around or do different things is going to
but that's typically going to happen during the daytime.
Yeah.
In other words, I would assume.
Yeah, this is not.
Well, I'm just saying, I feel sorry for the people.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's
It's
unfortunate
unfortunate.
that you're an area. Well, I mean, again, they were next to the power station that burned coal. I mean, whatever they have there now, I think it would be an improvement. I remember speaking to someone about the Universal Steel parking lot when they were trying to make it be an FW Web store, and the neighborhood was fighting it. And I said to one of the people that were involved in the neighborhood fight, I said, if 3 years ago FW Web came before you and said, we're going to take out Universal Steel, because there's no parking lot at this point in time, we're going to take out Universal Steel and we're going to build a nice new building here with parking for our customers, how would you guys vote? And the person looked at me and smiled and he says, well, timing is everything. Meaning, to me, was that they would have welcomed it at that time. But because now they had a parking lot there, they weren't going to do this. So the same is true. If you said to these residents 20 years ago, we're going to get rid of this coal stack and this coal dust, and what we're going to get taking place is going to have this windmill manufacturing site, would you take that?
Jump at
And
it.
I think that the bulk of them are going to say yes.
Jump at it.
Yeah, to be a good trade-off. So I don't, and they moved there next to a power station. So it wasn't like the power station was built after they moved there. So I think
Wait a moment, stop and think. Down in that area, I think the houses came before the power station.
Well,
Most of the houses
Yeah.
did come in for it.
right, but the
Before the
thing
power
is this: probably very few people are living there that lived there before the power station. was
Well,
built.
how
Because they'd
about
be
the how about the
150 years
sewage?
old.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
At the sewage plant across the way, a lot of people packed up and left to sold their houses,
Yeah.
and the sewage people supposedly, yes. In fact, Mary, God rest her soul, Mary Woodcock, bought one of the houses and moved it up to where close to the back of Gallows Hill someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She bought
Okay,
one. That's
but
yeah.
again, so yes, true. The original neighbors that were living there,
Yeah. Whoa.
you have a complaint. But anyone living there now doesn't really have, to me, a viable complaint.
No, they don't.
Most
But,
cities and
yeah.
towns would give their right arm for a facility like the windmill plant that's being built. Union jobs, high-paying jobs, people, I think would be invaluable. Right now, it's open space, right? Owned by the power plant.
But the power plant doesn't employ many people now
No,
compared to what they were.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's high technology.
Yeah.
And the same thing for this facility.
And
High technology.
windmills. Let's see how good they are offshore, because windmills, every place that's had them, have talked about the problems that they have with it. I don't have them all at the tip of my fingers right now.
That's if you're right underneath them or right abutting them. These are going to be out to sea.
Yep.
You're not going to hear the whirling of the windmills because they're going to be out far enough so they're not audible.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're fooling around with wind power, this, that, and everything. They ought to. I know they're busy. Many people investigating them. The which the billionaire people are, is nuclear power. That is the way that the world is going to have to go.
Well, I've touted that for years.
Definitely,
Okay.
Mike. We've talked about it.
I'd like
yes.
to get on to a couple other subjects here. Two things having to do with cameras. School buses are going to put cameras on there
Good idea.
so that they can see, catch people who are passing them. And they're going to put cameras in certain parts of the city of Salem because people are illegally dumping stuff.
Bad idea.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
That's Big Brother.
Huh. Okay.
The school bus cameras are not.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, just remember, Jim, over, not right close to your neighborhood, but right down there by Fell Street and going down by the golf course. People used to dump there, and down on, is it Harmony Grove Road? People used to dump old mattresses, old this, old that, in the middle of the night, old tires.
Yeah.
And if
My
you had
street.
cameras, maybe they wouldn't do that.
Swampscott Road.
They do it.
But
believe
right
me.
now, with the idea
It
to
doesn't
get...
take cameras to do it. I was the counselor when we stopped all the dumping
Yeah, but if you want to get rid of a
on-
mattress now, it's an arm and a leg.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no you go down, what's that, Sergeant Street? Is it next to the golf course? Sergeant Street, right?
What street?
It's Sergeant Street, isn't it?
Oh, Sergeant. Yeah, yep, yep.
Sergeant Street.
Yeah.
You go down there, there's no mattresses down there.
They used to be. Awesome.
they stopped it,
oh,
but in
yeah.
other
Oh,
words,
they were there all the time. They used to dump them.
Well, we don't need to put cameras there
Yep.
because they're not there anymore.
Yep.
But there is a good amount of dumping. I mean, there is on my street. Very few mornings do you not come out and not see fast food bags across the street. Because we have a ledge across the street from our house going to Salem High.
Okay, so you put a camera up on your house.
Yeah.
Do you think the police is going to come up and stop?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Okay.
What the idea is that if you get a license plate from someone doing it, and the police call and say, "Look, we think you did this. You better not do it again," type of thing. I just slows it down. If word gets out there, I don't know. But I'm not big on cameras without things, much like you're not.
Scary if you go down into the police station and what they can see
Yeah.
in that control room down there.
Yeah.
Go down and take a look sometime. There's probably at least a half of the city that they can see every minute of every day, every one.
Huh. Okay.
Big Brother watching, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. MCAS is on. The question has passed muster and is going to be a
Vote against.
referendum.
Vote it out. Vote it out.
So MCAS,
Vote
what
it
do we
out.
replace it with? We need to have something, don't we?
Yeah, we
I'm
do.
a teacher and I'm against it because this MCAS is put in incorrectly. It is put in by people who are not qualified to put it in. It should be done by educators, and
Okay.
it's not done by educators.
Okay, so you're not disagreeing that we should have a standardized test? Then?
Oh, positively, we need standardized
Okay,
testing.
you're just saying the specific
It's the
MCAS
wrong
then.
test.
Okay, so we could have someone redesign it and still call it the MCAS.
Yeah.
No?
But I don't
shouldn't
want
it
it.
be
Done
a-
that.
But I don't want it as
MCAS
a.
1, 2, and 3.
I don't want it to be something that is evaluated and they evaluate teachers on it. That wasn't the point of it. The point is we want to find out where the weakness is in our students so we can strengthen them.
Okay.
That's the point of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do believe that we should have some sort of
Oh,
statewide
definitely,
MCAS,
yes,
and you
yes,
as
yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Tom, you were on the school committee.
But
What about you?
as a teacher myself
Yeah.
for 40 years, and I brought in 5 foster children into my family and adopted 3. To rely on one test, is an injustice. There's so many things you can rely on: their academics, their sports, their drama, and so many things in their portfolio, student portfolio. It shouldn't be a requirement for graduation
Okay.
for Salem High School.
But someone is, my understanding is that if someone reads to the 10th grade level, what is called the 10th grade level, whatever that may be, then they pass the test for the 12th grade. If there has to be a standardized test, I mean, aren't we measuring to see how well they do in math and English and, what other subjects,
Yes, yeah.
science?
Math, English, and
But like
science.
Jim, they start really and truly at the curriculum. They were teaching to the test, and that's not the way it is.
That's true. That's true. They were-
have a test
They were teaching
checking
to-
on the curriculum.
That's
They've
right.
got it backwards.
By the way, there's a sidebar here. A lot of your top schools a few years back did away with using the SATs and the achievements.
That's
Now
right.
they're coming back.
And they've recently started bringing them back because it is the best. They've determined it is
Measure of success.
it may not the best, but a very
Good.
determinant
But St. John's
for
Prep
success.
and Bishop Fenwick does not have MCAS.
Yeah.
They don't have it.
No, they don't. No.
So it's the public schools that are being punished for this MCAS situation.
Okay. Well, I mean.
It's just the wrong test, like you said. We need a test, but not that one.
Okay.
Even
So
change
a test
the
that's going to
name.
measure
Yeah, yeah.
how well someone does. And again, if someone fails the MCAS now, they can take it again, can't
Yes,
they?
they can multiple times. It's not a silver bullet,
Right.
this MCAS situation.
Yeah.
It could be tweaked and so on there.
Yeah.
We do need testing to show that we're doing as well as Peabody, Danvers, and so on.
I don't care if we're doing as well as Peabody, Danvers, or Beverly. What I need to know is this person reading it at a level that they should graduate from high school? I mean, I think that's the key thing. Are they doing arithmetic at a level that should allow them to graduate from high school? Because otherwise, it's just an extended babysitting service, and we need to have some sort of standardized test, I believe.
I agree.
So you agree with the standardized
agree,
test?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
You agree a standardized test of some
No
sort?
doubt about it.
Yep,
You agree a
definitely.
standard-
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so something other than MCAS, but we do need to have a standardized
You
test.
know, the word MCAS scares kids.
Okay.
That's wrong. A test should not scare you. If you've been prepared and you have had the right education and everything down the line, you should feel comfortable. And these are things that teachers should be finding out from their students. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a principal, I was a guidance person, and a classroom teacher. I had all three areas.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, some kids, do very well with tests. Some children immediately test and they get all upset.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
right.
again, but it's, I don't know the answer then, but I mean, we need to have a standardized test designed by a committee, and committees are always suspect. And it has to be at least measured that someone is capable of performing at a certain level. Otherwise, what does a high school diploma mean?
And
A
to
high
a
school
certain
diploma
extent,
means
too, it's a measure of our teachers' ability to teach.
Yeah.
I don't think we can let that go also. I don't think that MCAS does a very good job at that at all. But we have to have some sort of yardstick knowing how much our teacher force is accomplishing in terms of teaching.
Yeah. Now, this is not being done, by the way, I mean, this MCAS being put on the ballot is not being put on the ballot by parents. It is being put on by the teachers' union. Because, again, as Jim says, I mean, it is something where it shines a bad light on teachers in underperforming schools. And so they want to get rid of it. So I don't think they're doing this for the benefit of the students. I don't think they're doing this, Tom, so that we don't have the fear of test. They're doing it because it's shining a light on teachers who are not performing their job.
But I would hope that from this, that NEA and the MTA and SAT, whatever it is, the Salem Teachers Association, that they are wherever you are in the world, it's affected by this type of test, that you sit down and you get your act together and do what is best for the students. And what is best for the students also is to start sitting down with teachers, and I'm sorry you're not still on the school committee, the two of you right here, because you should find out from the teachers what it is to be in that classroom and how many disruptions they have, and how much classroom time do they lose, and about the absentee rate that they face in their classrooms.
Yeah.
And this is all things.
The loss from the pandemic.
That's right. But not even the pandemic, not even that.
But it's
Right,
brutal.
prior to the pandemic was
But
a
it's
problem.
brutal.
Anyway,
I know it was
that
big,
was brutal, yeah.
but it was, I agree. But
And
now,
I don't have a problem with some sort of adjustment because of that, even though we'll be letting out students who are not there. In a way, it wasn't their fault, and we hope that those who are motivated can pick up that information someplace else or that skill someplace else. But again, the reason why it was put in, I think, was a proper reason. Whether the test itself is not the right vehicle, I don't know what it is, but